You are listening to Abnormal Spaces.
I'm Donnie.
I'm Ryan.
In this podcast, we discuss conceptual realities, the researchers, authors, and explorers who describe and define them, as well as our personal experiences in these abnormal spaces. In this episode, we discuss Slim Spurling and his work with tensor rings, harmonizers, accu-vac coils, and other devices to promote healing and vitality. So you had told me about Slim Spurling and the tensor ring, and we had actually talked about tensor rings a long time ago. When I was about 14 or so, I had a bracelet that was twisted metal, and it had two copper balls on either end. So it wasn't connected because it was a bracelet, so you had to be able to slip it on and off. I don't remember where I got it. It was like some kind of like flea market or something, and it was a table that had some metaphysical stuff or whatever, and I thought it was really cool. I don't know what happened to it. It may have ended up, on a girlfriend's wrist, or it could have, I've moved about 28 times in my life, so it was lost at some point. But I really liked it. I thought it was cool. It had a nice weight to it. And at that point, it was the early 90s. So I would have been, in 1990, I was 15. That was right about the time, in the mainstream anyway, you were hearing a lot more about copper stuff, helping with various ailments of the body, etc. And it turns out, unbeknownst to me, that Slim Spurling was beginning a lot of his experimentation and then publication right then about the same period. I thought that was kind of fascinating. I had no idea what I was getting. I just thought it was a cool looking bracelet, and it was supposed to have, quality. Well, that's the other thing too. I wore it on my picking hand because I wanted, just to have better pick technique, I guess. I don't know.
Less fatigue.
Oh, that's right. Anyway, though, so in learning more about the tensor ring itself, I was really interested in how the qubit ties into sacred geometry. And I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole to get us away from what Slim Spurling has discovered and worked with. But the qubit, in the translation, often it's referred to as a royal qubit. And so I naturally, the first time I read it, thought, okay, a pharaoh or some kind of king or something like that. No, royal in the translation actually refers to the sun. And there are really interesting properties, mathematical sacred geometry properties of the qubit measurement. One of my favorites is they were trying to figure out the circumference of the sun. And when they figured it out, the pyramid at Giza, it actually corresponds to this like 400-year cycle, but the specific measurement is actually, it ends up being 1 second. So essentially, you take a meter length of, chain or whatever, and you affix a weight to it to do like a pendant, and then you move it back and forth. And the arc that it creates, well, first of all, it goes exactly in 1 second increments. And the arc that it creates, when measured, it aligns perfectly with these measurements that are used throughout sacred geometry, but also in the tensor ring. So that royal qubit is very important. If you have the wrong length to start with, then you can actually create damaging properties instead of, healing properties or positive properties or whatever. So I thought that was fascinating because here's a ring, and real quick, the tensor ring is 1 royal cubit length, and it has, and it's copper, and it has a copper wire twisted, or they're basically 2 copper wires twisted at a 45-degree angle, and then they're brazed together to make a perfect loop, a continuous loop.
I need to intervene.
Okay.
It's 1 single wire folded in half and twisted.
Okay.
At 45-degree angle, like where you look at the twists are 45-degree angle. And apparently there's a positive and negative into each length of wire.
Right.
And then when you fold it in half and then you twist them and then you cut the end that would have been where it's folded in half, it would be a loop now. Mm-hmm. So you cut that and then solder those 2 ends to the other 2 ends.
Okay.
So it creates this, it's like a generator. So go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. Well, no, I'm glad you clarified, because that was something that I was stuck on. I didn't know that part of it, so I couldn't figure out how exactly it transmuted the energy.
Yeah. So the last thing is, if you just took a single strand of wire and just bent it into a circle and did the same thing without twisting it, you would have, this is according to Slim Spurling, one side would basically shoot out positive energy, one side would shoot negative.
Oh, okay.
So by folding it and twisting it, you create 2 positive energetic tensor fields coming out of the center of this ring.
Okay. All right. That's really cool, and that's obviously very important.
Yeah.
So yeah. But at any rate. So yeah, that ends up creating that positive field in both directions, which is then used for healing. Primarily, it seemed like from everything that I had read. And I thought it was really cool how you can make a coil and affix a ball at an end, and it's almost like a supercharger or something.
Amplifier.
Yeah, amplifier. And then some of the uses of the tensor rings, you can align them along the chakras of your body and promote healing in that way. I thought the vacuum coil, is that what it was?
Accu-vac.
Yeah, accu-vac, yeah. That was really neat.
Yeah.
And what a cool idea. Like, so this is almost like a horseshoe pattern. Essentially, there's a coil from one end to the other, and what it does is it pulls the negative energy, converts it to positive energy, and essentially puts it right back into the same place. Mm-hmm. And one of the methods I thought was interesting was the accu-vac was on one side, and then that amplification coil was actually around the back on the other side. For some reason, that was able to boost the healing properties, but also I think sometimes your tissue is more dense, or depending on what you're trying to get into, whether it's bone or what. And so I think that can probably help with that, just because you need a little bit of a boost to get through everything. Yeah. That was my thought. But yeah, the soap bubble thing was really cool too.
Yeah.
And that's something too, real quick. So, water can have surface tension, and the tensor ring kind of shows you what that surface tension looks like if you use the like just soap and water and make like a film across it. Mm-hmm. One experiment I saw was showing how this person's like basically like their heartbeat, and they're holding it, and it seemed to like vibrate with their heartbeat.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really, really cool too.
Yeah, well, he talks about it, and he's like, soap is a surfactant, so like literally, it shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Like when you dip a ring, like to blow bubbles, that shouldn't work.
Right.
But it's because of the tensor field. Even in something that's one of those plastic things, anything that's circular makes a tensor field. So, yeah, that's crazy in itself. It's showing you the actual energy field of a circle.
Yeah.
It's wild stuff, man. You go back to Reich, you go back to, even quantum physics, all of it, Tesla, scalar. So scalar is orgone, is tensor.
Yeah.
It's all is chi.
Yes.
It's all the same thing.
Yeah.
These people are all talking about the same thing.
Right.
I don't know why there's all these different names.
Yeah.
But there are.
Yeah. Well, and, something that I always forget is that there is a negative chi. And I can't remember the name of it. It's like Sha Chi or something. But anyway, it's a negative chi. And so that's another thing that these tensor rings, when used in a holistic healing methodology, it promotes getting that negative chi out of the body.
I have 3 tensor rings that I bought from, there's this guy who makes them. Slim Spurling died. I don't know when he died. But he was an old dude back then.
Yeah.
But there's this guy, Brian Besco, I think that's his name. He owns this Twisted Sage company, but he makes tensor rings, and they're cheaper than what Slim Spurling was selling them for, because Slim Spurling's company electroplated them with gold.
Yeah.
To amplify.
Yeah.
I guess. But this guy's just like, well, I mean, the copper's, it's good enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would put it under this pillow on this chair for a long time, and I should just go get it and do it again, because I feel like it made me feel better as far as like being able to concentrate on a thing that I was, like something I'm mixing, or it's like it just subtly helped me pay attention.
Yeah.
And even after I forgot it, I'm talking about this thing was on there for months, and I forgot about it.
Yeah.
But I feel like I got a lot more done,
Yeah.
And also sitting here like for a long time, it really, it makes me feel kind of yucky. So there's like a coolness. This is weird, but it's true. And this is before I even thought about Slim Spurling for this episode, or I didn't think about it, but we talked about it. I was thinking about how copper itself, like if I just take a piece of copper like this and I just turn it into like a Lakhovsky oscillating circuit, which is copper, but it's not quite joined. So it creates a capacitance.
Yeah.
But that's what those bracelets are that you were talking about.
Yeah.
So you put that on and there's a cooling sensation. If you pay attention, your whole arm will be like, it's like a cool breeze almost. It's really strange.
Yeah.
But I feel that same thing with the tensor coil.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, and I don't know what it means. I'm sure that there are ways to measure this. I'm sure other people know many other things than what we know. Not just me and Donnie, but like we as in the collective of weirdos that are trying to like figure out alternative strategies to, hamburgers.
Right. Yeah.
They're like, nope, you can have hamburger and French fry. And we're like, okay, cool. But then these other guys are like, yeah, but that'll kill you. And they're like, no, it won't. Anyway, so, but we have dowsing, and we have clairvoyant and people that are very gifted and that can see these energies and things. And that requires a lot of faith. And then that's why it's pseudoscience.
Right.
So,
except that there's been a lot of ongoing research, and you don't hear about a lot of it, but like recently there was a paper about auras. They're absolutely a thing, and you can absolutely test for them and see them, and it's like a published scientific paper. It's not woo-woo time. And we talk about this a lot. Like, it's frustrating because no one wants to get taken for a ride. No one wants to just believe in something. I mean, I guess some people do, but like most people don't want to just believe in something just to believe in it. So it's nice to have some kind of data to back it up. However, there are so many things that we're just never going to understand, or it's going to be, millennia before we have a way to test for it or to accurately understand it or conceptualize it or whatever. So, like, naturally, we want some kind of proof. And naturally, we typically don't want to just accept someone's account of their, experience as proof. However, when I see a lot of the same things kind of aligning, like you can take Eastern woo-woo and Western woo-woo and where they match up, you're like, okay, well, there's probably something here, Like why do they match up like that? So, again, it's easy to dismiss, but like when we talked in the orgone episode, they were actually able to measure that too. So there is a way, and some of it is super subtle. And that's the thing. They're like, well, this couldn't actually be enough to do anything.
Right.
And I'm like, how do you know?
It's a subtle energy. I mean, it's the energy that pervades everything. So that's what we're talking about.
Right.
So there has to be an instrument that is subtle enough, that is almost able to just pick up the concentration of orgone. And with Reich, it was like temperature, and he used something else, right?
Yeah. I can't
Some
remember.
kind of barometric,
pressure thing. Yeah.
But it's not the same as like magnetic fields or electricity, or it's so much more subtle,
Yeah.
And the thing about these instruments, all of these instruments, I mean, even going back to Tesla, going back to Egypt.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right? They're all just working with these natural forces, using things that in certain geometric shapes, certain measurements, certain shapes that are made, they concentrate or pull in, and they transmute, and they push back out.
Yeah.
To varying concentrations. And with like scalar, I mean, orgone, or all this that we're talking about, the scalar energy doesn't have apparently a drop-off level. So it's not like I'm 65 feet away from a scalar field. If this amplifier, is within that radius or whatever, that bubble, because everything's like toroidal. So if we're in that bubble, then it's all the same. The intensity is the same.
Yeah.
It's not like if you hold the generator, it's going to be the same as if you're 63 feet away from the generator or whatever,
Yeah. The scalar generator that you have here really, I don't know, it kind of blew my mind because I could tell a difference. I could feel, and I didn't, it wasn't anything that I was hoping to feel or anything like that. I just felt it. I just knew it was happening. And that's one of those things. It's like, okay, well, that's one person's perspective. Right. Yeah. But for me, it's as real as can be,
Yeah. And I mean, intention. So we don't even talk about the intention and the interaction of the consciousness of a human or whatever in concert with these things.
Yeah.
Because that's like the key.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why everything's a spiral, and that's why you twist the wire, and that's why it has to be at a certain angle. Everything else, it's it's the universe being the universe, and the more that you can, I guess, assist, for lack of a better word, but the more that you can assist the universe in doing the thing that it is going to do, I think the better off you are. And I think that's why you have these healing properties and these, cognitive enhancements and all these things, is because you're just kind of helping the universe along.
Yeah. And I mean, if you look at like Qigong, like you were saying, all of the Eastern practices, Tai Chi, all of it's about moving energy and transmuting energy, moving the negative energy out, pulling the positive in, and collecting it into. You have collection centers in your body.
Right.
And this is like millennia. This is old, man.
Yeah.
There's like 3 major collection centers, like below your navel. Like I think one is like your heart and one is your third eye here.
Yeah.
And these practices and how they work, it's the same thing. It's like the lowest one is the one you feel first, and then that spills into the heart, and then that spills into the third eye. And you can actually damage yourself by going straight for your third eye
Yeah.
when the bottom's not filled.
Yeah.
So there are rules apparently to this.
Yeah.
You can create like major psychic distress for yourself by trying to be like a psychic real fast and just be like, I'm just going to work on my third eye and drill it. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know why I just went off with that, but it's all this, like this all ties in. These instruments are, it's like, you know, the observation from us is what creates everything.
Right.
So we're observing this phenomena. People are using it and have figured out how to do certain things to tune it this way, tune it that way, flip it this way. But that's really all. They're not like doing anything insane or new.
Right. Yeah. That's the other thing is none of this is new.
Right.
You know, it's new to me and you and maybe to some of our listeners, but it's not new at all.
Right.
And you look back throughout history and stuff and you see evidence of these kinds of things being done. And, you know, so thinking about Egypt, for example, as far as we know, they didn't have any of the measuring tools that we have. And by that, I mean, you know, there was no way to test for the resistance of some, you know, electrical resistance of something or whatever. So they couldn't do that as far as we know. But their approach to figuring out how the universe worked and in relation to the earth specifically, and then to people within the earth, so many things have been built upon that knowledge that they got.
Yeah.
And so we sometimes forget, and, you know, I talk about this a lot because it's kind of important to me. You know, we think of ancient civilizations as being primitive or whatever else, and, you know, it's just, that's not the case. We've got enough historical proof that that's not the case at all. And again, back to this royal cubit thing, and, you know, the cubit was mentioned in the Bible, and probably, I guess, you know, all the Abrahamic texts most likely have some reference to the cubits or whatever. So, you know, this was a widely used measurement tool, but it was in relation to the harmonics of the universe. And that's the thing. The kind of rule of thumb definition of a cubit is basically your elbow to the tip of your, I think, middle finger. And that's a way to, you like just, you know, in your backyard, if you're building something, to measure a cubit. But that came from years of studying the position of the sun relative to where they were in Egypt, and marking time and marking distance and, you know, doing equations, etc. And then that's how they came up with that. And yes, they did have rods that were, you know, official measuring rods, but the average citizen of Egypt, you know, just used their arm because that was close enough and whatever. Fast forward to the imperial measurement system of England, and many things were done that same way. It was a measurement from, you know, one body part to another or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it varied. We do this all the time as humans. Someone figures something out, then someone else figures out a shortcut, and then eventually people forget that the reason it was this length in the first place is because this is the divine or holy length or, you know, magical, whatever. And, you know, and then we have all these negative, you know, problems because the measurement got lost and the reason behind the measurement got lost. And now we're just using any old thing and we're close enough. Well, close enough can be very bad.
Well, and it's also it's a resonance. It's a frequency that it puts off. So like there are different cubits even. There's like the royal, there's the sacred cubit, there's the king's cubit. And these are different measurements that put off different frequencies. Like I think the sacred cubit, it's like 144 megahertz is like what the frequency that thing puts off.
Yeah.
And the other ones are in the megahertz as well.
Yeah.
Which corresponds right to Bukowski.
Yeah.
He's working right in the megahertz range.
Totally.
You know, this is all connected so hard.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, Slim Spurling, I couldn't find a lot of information about his early life.
Yeah, I couldn't either.
So I don't know.
He was a metallurgist.
Yeah, that's all I could find out.
That's all I could find out too.
Yeah. So obviously he understood the properties of copper and then, you know, the gold plating, I get it, I guess. But regardless, so yeah, so he's a metallurgist. He understands copper, and I would presume understands frequency and whatnot, because by the time he was giving lectures and had his business and whatnot, he was very convincing. A lot of what he said tied into all of these other things, and he didn't really come up with anything new that I could find. It was really more just a way to get these instruments and tools to the masses.
Yeah, and I mean, you can tell that he's a smart dude.
Yeah.
We were just talking about, something about Orgonite or something. People like make these things and then they sell them, whatever. They make them pretty, they sell them, they get some money for them, whatever. He probably devoted 25, 30 years of his existence to not just making this stuff, but applying it.
Right.
And teaching people how to use it.
Yeah.
And doing experiments with, God knows how many people and how many animals or whatever. So why would you spend that much time on something that you just think you're just going to make a buck off of?
Right, yeah.
I just don't. That's what I'm saying. I don't buy that. And other people maybe, they're just like, oh, yeah, well, I'm just going to make these and go.
Yeah. Yeah, like if he had, been, I don't know, something else, and then one day I was like, oh yeah, I got these great bracelets or whatever, of course no one would really buy that. I saw this presentation that he did, and he was explaining a lot of the things like the accu-vac, and whenever the audience would ask questions, one thing that I liked is a lot of their questions were thoughtful, but his answers were great. And there was, I can't remember what the question, there was at least one question where he was like, I don't know.
Yeah, he says it a lot.
Yeah, he's like, I can't tell you why, I can just tell you how, or I can't tell you how, I can't remember, but regardless, I appreciate that because I feel like fraudsters and whatnot will just spit out some kind of answer.
Yeah.
And he didn't try to bluff, he didn't try to make it up, he didn't try to, redirect. Is like, I don't know.
A lot of the guys who make these things, they'll say that. In the end, they're like, I have no idea why it does what it does or how it does what it does.
Yeah.
I just know that this combination and the way this is makes this happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. And whatever's happening, I don't know, it just makes it better for you and better for us.
Right, yeah. Yeah, he was talking about, he had this sinus infection, and he put I can't remember if it was the accu-vacs or what, but anyway, basically he put 2 items on his temples and laid down for about 3 hours, and the infection had completely left his body. And he felt completely fine. Obviously, in the span of that, he didn't go get tested to make sure he had an infection and then tested again to make sure he didn't have an infection. But his lived personal experience was he was in agony. He said he felt like he was close to death. He said it just felt like all-encompassing sickness and infection. And 3 hours of, just laying down with these coils and you're good to go again. And I think about, when some of the historical texts, especially from like the Pentateuch, when they describe people living 150 years, 250 years, whatever, I'm like, well, yeah, man, if you could just go recharge yourself with some copper rings and, and get rid of infections, and you don't back then they didn't have all of the everything we have now working against the harmony of our bodies and earth. Why not? And when I was a kid, I was taught that, well, they measured time a little differently or whatever, which is true. But now I'm like, well, they were probably just really taking good care of themselves.
Well, yeah, and I also think about it, they were closer to living a natural way of life. It's like an animal, an animal in the wild just has an instinct to eat the things it's supposed to eat, and it doesn't want the things that it's not supposed to eat for the most part.
Right.
Unless it's in a situation where it can't get food.
Yeah.
But then humans come along and fuck it all up.
Right.
We feed the ducks bread.
Right, yeah.
We make dogs.
Right.
We breed dogs and then we feed them a food that we make them.
Right, yeah.
So you don't see a lot of modern diseases. You see them here and there, but not I mean, not even countable almost.
Right. Yeah.
Especially in certain cultures. Like there's certain cultures that scientists would do studies on, like in the 1800s, and they would like go to Hunza and, or Hunzaland. Is it Hunzaland?
Yeah, I think that's right.
So they would go there and they would study those people because they would live to be regularly 100, sometimes 120.
Yeah.
130. And they're like, what are these people doing? Because in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s, people were getting sick here, and our life expectancy is not very good.
Right, yeah.
But that's because of all the processed food we eat. That's because of all the pollutants and frequencies that are bombarding us now, especially, and chemicals and all of the stuff. I mean, and I know that sounds woo-woo, but if you just go down that rabbit hole, you almost don't want to, because it really is a bummer.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a huge bummer because you can't get away from it.
No, you can't exist
Yeah.
in this world and not have that to some degree.
Yeah. One of the videos showing like the tensor rings and the various chakras and stuff, I was like, this is why that stuff existed then. It's because they had figured out somehow, and whether it was aliens or angels or just experimentation or what, an observation, I don't know, but they figured out chakras, they figured out chi, and then someone figured out, because I'm sure there were tensor rings in antiquity. There kind of has to be, or something equivalent.
You just got to go back to Egypt, man.
I know, yeah.
I mean, for real.
Yeah. And then it's probably in the sand somewhere. But yeah, they had this stuff figured out. They had their version of medicine. They had their version of healing. Yeah. And,
Well, I mean, you got to think about it too. I mean, the amount of energy they spent on consciousness and traveling the different levels of consciousness and astral projection and all that stuff, man, that was like crazy. They were crazy about that.
Yeah.
And that's probably how they found out a lot of information.
Yeah.
Because all the information's there.
Right. That's just it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, they were able to access the information, and process it. And to think, a lot of that stuff was going on 6,000 years ago.
Yeah. And I mean, it's crazy too. Like, we take for granted that we're just surrounded by, crystalline sands and rock and all of these things that produce these different effects. And I mean, like silica, it's just like, what are the pyramids and sand.
Yeah.
I mean, that is like crazy in itself.
Yeah.
Just to think about the properties of that. And then the pyramid in itself as a structure, a sacred geometric structure, is like, pick any hole you want to go down, rabbit hole. Like it's endless.
Yeah. One thing that I like about our conversations is like tying the different things together. And a bit of information as far as like computing, and especially quantum computing goes, is called a qubit.
Yeah.
So, and I'm like, well, here we go again. Like because it is all information. At the end of the day, It is all information.
Yeah, they changed from CUBIT to Q.
Yeah.
Bit.
Right.
And that's what all these people changed it from chi to tensor to scalar.
Right.
I mean, it's all the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And if it's all the same thing, and over 6,000 or more years, these concepts keep coming up, then I really feel like they deserve attention,
Yeah.
they kind of demand credibility, you know?
Yeah. Ridicule is like, who said that? Ridicule is the most powerful weapon, basically.
Yeah.
When you're ridiculed, you are shunned.
Yeah.
And once you're shunned, you're done.
Yeah.
And look at these great men. Look at Tesla. Look at Reich. Look at Rife. Look at all of them. They were ridiculed
Yeah.
out of existence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and you think about information and ridicule being almost like anti-information or whatever, and you think about how gossip has always been a weapon, and all that is messing with the information essentially, and choosing what to promote and what not to promote, etc.
Yeah.
So it is all the same thing at the end of the day.
It's that the people who are the geniuses who figure these things out, they just know what they know.
Right.
They don't know how to protect themselves against ridicule and propaganda.
Right.
That's not their forte. So these powers that be or whatever, their forte is like just mass brainwashing.
Yeah.
And it's always been.
Right.
So they've had thousands of years to work on this shit.
Oh, yeah.
And it just keeps getting weirder and weirder now because we have crazier and crazier technology.
Yeah, new ways to deploy the propaganda.
Yeah, man. And I know that sounds whatever. It doesn't matter because it's the show. But like, I'll say it. We're at a level now that is just unimaginable.
Yeah.
It's so unimaginable that it's so normal.
Right, yeah. Well, and we're forced to take it in stride. What are we going to do? How are we even going to, conceptualize it? I mean, it's hard. But the other thing is, I think about how those people are ridiculed, but they continue doing what they're doing because they've seen it. They know.
They know it. Yeah.
They know it. And so no amount of ridicule is going to stop them.
Right.
And they can be penniless. It doesn't matter. They've figured something out.
Right.
And like their role, and I don't know if they feel this or not, but I feel that one of their primary objectives is just to get the information out, to share the information.
Or just know the information.
Right. Well, yeah.
Or just build upon the information that they know.
Yeah.
Like make different versions and better versions and, more efficient versions. And, because, like if you look at these people, it's like, they mostly just want to help people.
Yeah.
They want to help humanity. Like, Tesla wanted to make wireless energy. Every modern thing we have is because of him.
Yeah.
But then you look at the offshoots, like Likovsky worked with Tesla. He talked with Tesla.
Yeah.
They discussed antenna. They discussed, frequency and measurement and math.
Yeah.
To figure out like what would be the best for a biological entity,
Yeah.
And I mean that these guys, man, like they had their own just subsect, almost like the underground.
Yeah.
And that's how it's always going to be until enough people come out and they open source this stuff and don't charge a penny for it.
Right.
And then it gets on the internet and, then the propaganda machine will try to shut it down with all of the, for every one real thing you find, there's going to be 100 or more. Like, no.
Right.
Well, whatever. This was reported and rumored to work or, but you can see that now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You see the quackification everywhere.
Quackification. That is like the biggest, it's ridicule.
Yeah, it is.
Yep.
And it's information, it's anti-information disguised as information.
Right.
And the other thing is, it kind of makes people not want to be curious.
Right.
And that's a huge danger because, what are we if not curious? We should be curious.
Complacent laziness, and you can't help it.
Right. Well, and it reinforces the idea that someone else is going to give you the information. Like you can't figure it out yourself.
Or like, if some people are like, well, if this exists, why isn't it on the news? Why isn't
Right.
it why isn't everybody talking about it?
Yeah.
That's such a cop-out.
And it's a really silly argument because obviously lots of people are talking about it.
Yeah.
But there are 8 billion people on this earth.
That's right.
So it's, no, not all 8 billion people are talking about the same thing. That's never going to happen.
Well, it reminds me of like, the little tiny, what do they call that? When you're watching the news and then there's that tiny thing that just tells other news.
Oh, yeah, the scroll, the ticker.
The scroll.
Thing.
It reminds me of that. Like there's the news.
Yeah.
Then there's the scroll that's like, this volcano just erupted and destroyed this whole continent.
Yeah, right.
And they're not talking about it.
Yeah.
So that's what it reminds me of.
Yeah. And then the argument is, well, they are talking about it because it's there on the, how else did you
tiny,
know? Yeah.
But you have to look at it.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I see so much of that and I do feel like it's a cop out. I do feel like it's lazy,
Yeah.
When you explore some of this stuff and you see some of the work that people have put into trying to figure it out and like, all the equations and graphs and whatnot. And you're like, yeah, this is important for you to be able to explain it to somebody else. So you have to wrap your head around it first, and then you're able to explain it. And you see this body of work and you're like, wow, you spent a decade on this or whatever. There's something to it. There's got to be something to it.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, when Tesla made wireless energy and he held a light bulb on his property and people are like, and it lit up. People are like, huh?
Right.
I mean, imagine that.
Yeah.
Like at that time.
Yeah.
That's unimaginable. That's like, it's magic.
Yeah. Yeah. It totally feels like sorcery.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the thing. Sorcery and magic were also vilified, quackified, etc.
Yeah.
Because it does exist.
Yeah.
And so here's the thing. I think about this all the time. So when I'm thinking about fields of energy and how there are fields of energy around us all the time, and someone's like, well, you can't see it, you can't feel it. Like, how do you know it's there? You're just imagining it. And I'm like, okay, but remember the first time you put two magnets together and you put the same size together and there's that force repelling, or then you put it the other way and they snap together or whatever. Like that, you're feeling a field. You can feel it. It's there. When that repulsive force is that magnetic field.
Yeah.
So yes, we don't have examples of every single field of energy that there is. And we are, encapsulated in these meat suits, and there's only so much that we're going to be able to detect anyway. But there's one concrete, easy, everyone has felt it before. So why is it such a stretch to imagine that there are other fields of other energies all around all the time?
did.
Cool.